This video is brought to you by Squarespace. On the 24th of January 2013, at the Winter X Games in Aspen, a 25-year-old snowmobile pro by the name of Caleb Moore would gear up to hit a backflip off of a ramp on his snowmobile. This would be the beginning of the darkest week in X Games history. All the stunts in this video are performed by professionals, do not attempt them yourself. For us to truly understand this story, we need to look at where the sport of snowmobile freestyle came from in the first place. Invented in 1935 was the Bombardier sprocket and wheel system. In 1962, at the Manitoba's Bassett Shore Winter Festival, thousands of people gathered to watch these 6 racers compete in what would be the first ever snowmobile race on this track going about 25 kilometers an hour. And that's where snowmobile would reside in the world of racing. All the way into the 90s, and by 1997, a brand new sporting event had come along.
The Winter X Games are coming to town.
With this wide range of countercultural sports that would be dubbed extreme sports. And by 2001, Jim Ripley hucked the world's first backflip on a snowmobile. It wouldn't be up until round about the Winter X Games in 2007 where we would start to see the first ever freestyle snowmobile event. And as you can imagine, these events were a spectacle, and it became a super popular event, with the riders doing tricks that we would see very commonly in a sport called freestyle motocross. Very quickly, the skill level rose dramatically, and with that, so did the level of danger. The distance that these riders were sending was becoming insane, and with the growing emphasis being on competition, these riders were incentivized to send bigger and badder tricks. And by the mid to late 2000s, the backflip was starting to become a standard trick, but this didn't mean it wasn't dangerous.
Now, was that a big Superman flip, or was it getting away from him?
Before we go further with this video, I want to thank Squarespace for sponsoring. Squarespace is the #1 tool for building and customizing your own website. With tons and tons of templates to choose from, you can customize any of these to perfectly suit what it is you do. Whether you run your own business, or you're a photographer, or a PT, Squarespace has you covered. As well, there are tons of tools that you can use to make your website even better. Things such as appointment scheduling, members-only content, and e-commerce. Every time in past that I've ever needed to make a website, I've always used Squarespace. So be sure to check out www.squarespace.com/Jimmy the Giant, and to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain, use the code Jimmy the Giant. Anyway, back to the video. In the Winter X Games of 2008, we would see someone attempt a backflip in practice, and as they came around to land, the front skis caught the snow. And if you look closely, this 450-pound snowmobile only narrowly avoided him. After spending a whole minute on the ground, loads of people rushed over to check he was okay. He gets to his feet, and the crowd cheered. Yeah! In the Winter X Games in 2010, there was a speed and style event.
Gold medalist now from last night's freestyle.
During this event, we'd see Jeff Mullins send a backflip. He undershoots it and slams the exact same way we saw before. And this time, the snowmobile was even closer to hitting him with even more momentum. He eventually gets up and he seems to be okay, but you hear when the commentators were talking that they were kind of concerned about the safety of the riders.
Exactly what I was worried about is the freestyle guys do not have the experience of going side by side.
Crashes were becoming quite common in these snowmobile events, specifically undershooting backflips.
Yeah, you could really see.
And it was only a matter of time before someone would get seriously hurt. However, it wasn't all bad. Insane, mind-blowing tricks were being continuously landed. In 2010, the first ever front flip would be landed by Heath Frisbee.
Come on, Heath!
And this sport was growing year after year and becoming a major spectacle. One of the most popular events at the Winter X Games. However, in that same year, in 2012, a young rider by the name of Colton Moore would have a near-death slam.
Just gets the tip of the seat with his fingers, but what I like to see here is, oh wow, just missed it. He had the mindset of flipping, trying to get on his back, right? right there instead of landing on his
After launching 120 feet into the air, attempting a holy grab, his hands miss and he goes flying face first towards the snow. And luckily, he managed to land on his back and kind of roll. Colton Moore was the brother to professional snowmobile rider Caleb Moore. And they competed side by side at these X Games events. The pair of them got into the sport having watched the X Games on television and having their own background in ATV riding.
Because they never rode a sled until December 15th last
First
year.
time these guys got on snowmobiles, I had no idea what they were doing. And,
However, it would be at the Winter X Games in 2013 where everything would change.
But look at them now, they are absolutely ripping in this sport.
It was the final of the freestyle snowmobile event, and Caleb Moore starts his run with 1 minute 15 on the clock. He makes a big gap and lands it. He sends another gap into a super flip, he lands it and the crowd go crazy. And he continues to send a bunch of other heavy tricks. Everything was looking good for Caleb's run. And with 24 seconds left on the clock, he ready to send what would be his final trick ever. As Caleb comes in to land the backflip, his front skis would catch the snow. And in the same way as we'd seen before, he gets sent flying over his handlebars. However, this time the snowmobile flips and lands on top of him. Caleb laid on the floor motionless for a number of minutes. Quickly, he was swarmed by a team of medical professionals. And after some time, heroically, Caleb emerges on his feet and walks away.
Moore would remain conscious throughout the episode as we see first aid.
He's then put in the back of an ambulance and rushed to hospital in Aspen. And that was where doctors discovered the worst.
Doctors found bleeding in his heart.
Doctors knew they needed to send him somewhere that could treat him properly. And so on the night of Thursday 24th, he is airlifted to St. Mary's Hospital.
At this hour, hooked up to life support where he continues to fight for survival.
Days would pass as doctors worked on Caleb. On Sunday 27th, doctors discovered brain damage caused by the bleeding in his heart, and Caleb is put on life support. All the while, this was all over the news. Local news teams were reporting continuously on his condition, and they were beginning to debate the dangers of the X Games.
We pose the question of how far is too far at the X Games.
The entire X Games community was fearing the worst for Caleb. And all of a sudden, there were mixed reports on Caleb's condition.
USA Today said that Moore was pronounced dead earlier this morning. That's Thursday. However, we have conflicting reports after talking to the Pitkin County's deputy coroner's office, and he says that Moore still has a pulse and remains in ICU at St. Mary's Hospital.
However, on January 31st at 9:30 a.m., Caleb Moore was announced dead at age 25.
Caleb is always about go out, do what you love to do. You never know from one day to the next what's going to happen, so live every day to the fullest.
The passing of Caleb Moore was not only felt across the snowmobile community, but the X Games community as a whole. This hit close for the many people that also do very extreme and dangerous sports. This tragedy of Caleb Moore sparked a debate in the mainstream world. And only a few weeks after Caleb's death, journalist Jake Simpson from The Atlantic posted a damning article with its sights held on the X Games and demanding it cancelled the event. The article begins by saying, the X Games announced Tuesday that they had cancelled a snowmobile freestyle exhibition. But The Atlantic responded to that by saying, the decision is a commendable step by ESPN, but it is not yet enough. And in fact that they should go further and permanently ban the snowmobile freestyle event and its sister event, Snowmobile Best Trick. The author Jake Simpson goes on to point out that in that very same event, later on, Caleb's younger brother Colton crashed his snowmobile 30 minutes apart, resulting in him separating his pelvis in the crash.
Exactly the same place that his brother Caleb wrecked. Colton goes down.
But then the Atlantic article aimed its sights at a different but very similar event. ESPN should also proactively review similar trick events in the summer X Games that use motorcycles, which are less bulky than snowmobiles but still weigh 200 to 250 pounds. And so the Atlantic had brought the world of motocross into this debate. And so the article concludes by saying that young children will be inspired by this and hurt themselves. You know, I want to jump in with my opinion just here, because this argument of like inspiring children is often used as a rhetorical argument to damn extreme sports. And I just have to say it's a little bit of a reach to say that some kid is gonna watch the Winter X Games, go and ask their mum for a snowmobile for Christmas, and then somehow die attempting a backflip on a 70-foot ramp. You know, if you just think about it, it would take them many years to master riding a snowmobile and even be able to jump it, much less have the bravery to do it, and then they've got to get access to facilities that have 70-foot ramps where they can do something like that. To me, this is a massive reach to make such a claim. But nonetheless, it's a claim that's always made, but we'll get more into that later. A month goes by, and on the 12th of March, reports had emerged that the X Games had decided to cancel the Best Trick event. From not only snowmobile, but also motocross. What's interesting to note here is that the Best Trick event wasn't the event that Caleb passed in. He passed away in the freestyle event. The Best Trick is where you just have one ramp and you do one big trick. And it was kind of unfair that motocross got caught in the crossfire here. Loco magazine came out saying this is the most popular and progressive event in the sport. Riders like Kyle Loza, who dedicated their entire career to that event, are kind of just being thrown away. And so obviously X Games and ESPN weren't in everyone's good books. They released their own statement explaining why they did it. And they claimed that motocross Best Trick and snowmobile Best Trick were not dropped in response to what happened in Aspen. The decision was under consideration before Aspen, and in fact, our review of snowmobile freestyle continues. You know, the timing was a bit too coincidental for people to really believe this. This move felt like the X Games wanted to concede a little bit of ground to the critics instead of an outright full cancellation of these sports. But by now it was 2014 and the next Winter X Games would return. Now without the Best Trick event, the snowmobile freestyle event still remained. And the world's eyes were on one man, Colton Moore.
And you see him pointing to the sky, and you'll see he tosses up the hand signal, the 3 and the 1. The 31 was Caleb's racing number.
With the weight of losing his brother the year before, simply him being there took an insane amount of courage. And so it came time for Colton to do his freestyle run. Colton performs an incredible run.
What it was! Oh, man!
And takes his first ever gold medal at the Winter X Games and dedicates it to his brother.
For you, Caleb! For you, son!
3 years on from the passing of Caleb, and the X Games announces the return of the Best Trick event in snowmobile just 1 year after the return of Best Trick in motocross. Yeah, I don't really know what had led to that decision. Perhaps the dust had settled enough, who knows?
So when they announced that Best Trick was back in X Games, I'm like, perfect opportunity, might as well figure it out on the sled now.
Colton Moore had planned to land the world's first double backflip, and so at the 2017 Winter X Games, he attempts it. Colton launches it into the air, he gets around perfectly, but then he starts to over-rotate. And he lands so heavily onto his snowmobile that he manages to break his spine. And as Colton laid there, the crowd watched, expecting the worst. You know, luckily this wasn't a fatal injury. He managed to make a recovery and is still out sending it to this day. From what I can tell, I don't think he does snowmobile in the X Games anymore, but he's still out living life in a way that I'm sure would make his brother proud. These people that do these stunts are grown adults. They know the risk of what they're doing. And it's incredibly heartbreaking to see people get hurt bad. These athletes chase something that's inside of them, something so deep and so personal. They go out and do these incredible things. They live these incredible adventurous lives, doing what they love. And of course, it's dangerous, but that is for them to contend with. To ban events that adults take part in willingly, knowing the risks, to me, it's a tricky one. Like the Olympics has had people die. As too have most sports, football, boxing, you name it. Humans take risks. They do dangerous things. And of course there should be an emphasis on the X Games to make sure that these events are safe as they can be. But ultimately, if someone wants to do the impossible and huck a backflip on a snowmobile, who is anyone to stop them doing that? Rest in peace, Caleb Moore. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel and watch this video right here.